Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Hassan. Welcome to my live stream. It is Wednesday, 2 p.m., September 24th. And each week we're endeavoring to do a live stream to answer your questions as we build a freedom of mind community around the world. Very excited to be able to share my points of view on subject matter of importance. And there I am, I'm back again. So first of all, I just want to say on a personal level, I decided to get my COVID shot and my flu and pneumonia shot. So I had 3 in my arm on Sunday. So I have a little bit of a fever. Otherwise, it was just a little soreness in both arms. So I really want to encourage people who are eligible to get their vaccinations to absolutely do it. Next, I want to thank everybody for supporting Jimmy Kimmel. A lot of celebrities boycotted Disney. A lot of people canceled Disney. And apparently the 2 right-wing media giants, Nexstar and Sinclair, who own a lot of local affiliates, who have not put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. But it is a major moment in terms of attacking free speech, something that Trump and his cronies have been campaigning on, the need to keep government out of free speech. And now we're in a moment where Trump is just saying anyone who dares to criticize me shouldn't be platformed. And they're going after the corporations to do it, which just means how much more important it is for little people. When I say little people, it includes Aaron Parnas, Midas Touch Network, David Pakman, Leb Parnas, Michael Cohen, Anthony Davis, a lot of my friends who are on Substack, who have YouTube channels. How important it is for people listening to find trustworthy sources of information. I myself love Heather Cox Richardson, so she's a regular person that I like to read and appreciate her perspective on things. And we are facing a government shutdown, and Trump has refused to meet with Democratic leaders because he has been told that the Democrats are not going to help pass a short-term budget thing without restoring medical benefits, Medicaid, Medicare, things that Americans truly would never have voted for Trump if they knew he was going to be taking these benefits away. And of course, he said he wasn't going to touch it, and he is touching it. And this just speaks to what happens when you trust a malignant narcissist who's a pathological liar, like Donald Trump is. But I think the Democrats are doing the right thing to say, listen, we will help fund the government, but we have to restore the benefits taken away by this last BBB. And I'm bringing this up early in this live stream because we need to have messaging acumen. We need to really agree on what are the most important things to message about with all the different crazy things that are happening in the world. And this is a big one because we can count on the Trump media machine to say it's the Democrats who are not going to fund the government and blame the Democrats. And we need to shift the focus and say the Democrats are standing up for the American people who want health care coverage. They need health care coverage. They voted to maintain health care coverage. So everybody who's listening to me, please mark this down and make this a major thing as you're on social media, as we have been messaging Epstein files, Epstein files, Epstein files. and we still want to continue that. And I'm not clear whether or not there's enough votes now with the special vote in Arizona to discharge the Epstein files. That was a post that I saw, but I haven't seen it in AP or any major media yet. But we really want to be messaging, we want our health care restored. We want Medicaid. We want Medicare. Don't touch our health care, because a lot of people are going to be kicked off coverage. A lot of coverage is going to get twice as expensive. And this is the moment that we all need to rally around. It's really, really important. And I also want to say regarding Jimmy Kimmel's restoration, he's back. He came back last night, and he said that it's a tragedy when anyone is killed in the prime of their life. Charlie Kirk was 31. And I want to reinforce the notion, I've said it publicly several times, political assassination of someone that you don't agree with is still horrible. It should never happen. It should not be done on the left. It should not be done on the right. Of course, Trump is trying to spin it to say that the left is the violent side. And let's take the focus off right-wing extremism, when all the statistics say 3/4 of all of these violent acts have been by right-wing extremists. And so absolutely, I mourn Charlie Kirk's death from the point of view of a father leaving a wife and children. I think he should not get the Medal of Freedom. He should not be uplifted as a great champion of human rights, because he isn't. But for those listening to me now, you need to understand the folks in the Trump media stream are only hearing laudatory things about Charlie Kirk. And we are getting algorithms like Tara Setmayer had a compilation of his most vitriolic, hate-filled, racist rants that I highly recommend watching. And Tara actually, who had interviewed me when she was with the Lincoln Project, now has the Seneca Project, and invited me tomorrow night at 7:30, I believe, to 8 to come on and add my point of view. So check that out. And this week's podcast interview was with Matthew Skinta, who's a tenured professor, expert on gay and trans rights. And I heard Trump basically diss everybody he doesn't like, who doesn't agree with, and even say hateful thing that trans people are all terrorists. And everyone who's opposed to him is Antifa and is violent, which is, you can be anti-fascist and not violent. That's me. Never have I advocated taking up arms and killing people. And for those who read my books, I keep saying love is stronger than mind control. And I'm a love guy, and that's what I practice. So I want to state that categorically. That said, I'm sure that I am labeled as a terrorist because I wrote The Cult of Trump. And if you haven't read it yet, here's the copy. Pick it up and read it, because it's really accurate and true. It was a message just now thanking all the major celebrities who were speaking out in support. Thank you. Julie Bliss said, "Love you, Ben family, crew, Kimmel, Colbert, Stewart, and all you wonderfully funny people who make us laugh. Bring joy and info into people's lives. Thank you for pushing back, having strength." Absolutely. And in Jimmy Kimmel's monologue, he said that Trump's going to need to move things to get them off of Kimmel to Epstein. And I saw a piece that two statues were erected for several days of Trump and Epstein in Washington, D.C., celebrating their buddyhood, their friendships, and with a copy of the birthday greeting that Trump sent to his friend 22 years ago. And so there are so many fissures in the cult of Trump. And we who are pro-democracy, pro-human rights, pro separation of powers, we don't want Christian nationalism. We need to get our messaging together, and we need to have much more penetration into the silos of the right wing. And so everyone who has a family member or friend involved with MAGA, I again implore you to rebuild warm relationships and ask people their opinion about this event or that event, and give them information and let them know that, this is factual, and that we are all in this together as Americans. So we can put something back up. Bill Vick said, did you hear the leader of the Unification Church was arrested and now in jail 2 days ago? So Hak Jahan, the widow of Sun Myung Moon, my former cult leader, was indicted in Korea for bribery charges. I posted it on social media. If you're still not following me yet on at Cult Expert on a number of different platforms, or my Substack, LinkedIn, etc., please do, because I try to post things as they're sent to me, as I'm aware of it. And I knew about the Hak Jahan problem days ago from my friends in Japan. And I'll just say, because I did post this on my Substack, Hak Jahan paid Donald Trump $2.5 million to endorse her. And the group doesn't use Unification Church hardly ever anymore. The latest they use is the World Family Federation for Peace and Unification. This is a feature of destructive mind control cults, is they love to have different names, different front groups, so that people think that it's different. And there's a new cult that's in bed with the Moonies and the Trump administration. It's a Russian cult called Allatra, Allatra. They have other front groups where they propose that they're for environmental protection, which they're not. And this is a very dangerous cult that is citing yours truly as a head of a global terrorist anti-cult network. So why am I a terrorist? It's a word, but I've never done anything illegal. I'm a forensic expert. I'm squeaky clean. I advocate love. I advocate talking and not violence. But as you heard Donald Trump this past week say, anyone who says things that he doesn't like, that criticizes him, is a terrorist. So he's redefining it, and it's truly upsetting and disturbing. And we need to rally together. And if you're not someone who has high profile, I would encourage you to be active locally in your community, make friends, have book clubs, and get messaging together. And this is what it's really going to be, a bottom up effort. I know Indivisible. I know they're doing a No King's Day #2 on October 18th. But that's a top-down organization thing. We need to be much more robustly spending our time and energy making things move in a positive direction. Now, let's see. Teddy Fresh 27. Have you guys talked with any Democratic leaders about public outreach so people have tools to talk to those who are in the cult and perhaps get them out? Unfortunately, I have been so disappointed with Democratic leaders. Um, I um, I had the most hope a few years ago. I met with Congressman Jamie Raskin, who's a former constitutional law professor, who's a congressman who was on the January 6th committee. We sat, he picked my brain for 2 hours on a couch in Brookline, Massachusetts. Then said he read Combating Cult Mind Control, Freedom of Mind, and the Cult of Trump, and my doctoral dissertation. And he was using the terms cult of Trump regularly. And I said to him, let's have a congressional hearing on QAnon and brainwashing and psychological warfare. And he couldn't get the other members of his caucus to sign on to that. I tried reaching out to the Biden administration. So I'm very frustrated with politics and the Democratic Party. But I keep doing these live streams because you never know who's listening. Maybe an aide to a congressman or senator is listening to this and can say, hey, congressman, hey, senator, this fellow was in the Moonies. He's a mental health professional. He has 2 masters and a PhD, and he's an expert on brainwashing and mind control, and wrote The Cult of Trump. Let's have a meeting with leaders and discuss messaging. So if you know anybody or even influencers, ask them to have me on. But it's really going to take a team effort. And but the bottom line that I want to say is that brainwashing doesn't erase the person's real self nor their real values. And ethical influence can and does work. It doesn't work in one shot, and you can't use logic and facts to persuade the person. You have to ask questions and get the person to start questioning for themselves what is trustworthy, what isn't. Let's see. Cami says, Stephen Rosenzweig on Substack asks, how much lower can Trump sink? Trump is sinking pretty fast. He was an embarrassment at the UN, rambling, lying his face off, saying that global climate warming was a hoax. And he truly is only interested in himself. This is the signature of a malignant narcissist. I was listening this morning to a New York Times report on the Arab Emirates that struck a $2 billion deal to get the fastest AI chips to their country. And why the Biden administration didn't want to do that was because they're in bed with China. And China is, seeking world domination and control. China has moved in where all the USAID money has been drying up, is moving in to have soft power with people around the world. And Trump is not serving the goals of freedom. And I will say, Trump came out supporting Zelensky in Ukraine, saying NATO should support Ukraine against Putin. And my honest reaction is I didn't believe it was real, because I know that part of the Russian active measures is to give the illusion that you're an independent person when your allegiance is to Russia. And if in fact Trump is at war with Putin, I think Putin's going to win. And with Trump's psychological and physical declining health, I see the clock ticking on that. Let's see. Another thing, Cami Lee said, PJ Schuster on Substack says, boycott any local businesses that advertise on the ABC stations owned by Nexstar. So Nexstar and Sinclair, when I wrote The Cult of Trump, I knew about Sinclair, but they're trying to merge. And instead of having independent local stations, this is centralized propaganda 101. And again, we need to get into small rural communities. And the way to do it is to find somebody in each community and get them information that they can share. Because if people are going to be relying on these stations for news, they're only going to be hearing propaganda. And so we really need to get organized, and I'm really hoping more young people will get engaged and active and realize that they have the energy, they have the passion, they have the technical skills. And we need more brilliant people to come up with ideas. So we need to really come together, because it's our strongest resource as human beings with expertise. And I think former members have a lot we can share. Let's see, Mitch Kale, 8% of the population infected with COVID-19 have long COVID on a scale from mild to severe. The public has no idea what this is. So, and we have RFK, who doesn't believe in germ theory, and fails to acknowledge the facts that more people died in the US than needed to. And it was Trump and his Operation Warp Speed that at least, saved a lot of us by getting the mRNA vaccine fast-tracked. Unfortunately, a lot of these billionaires that want to take over the government and make it a Christian nationalist identity thing, or the tech bros who want to do a network state control over governments, they look at the world and the obvious climate problems, and I think they just think it's part of what needs to happen, that tens of millions of people have to die so that the superior people, in their minds at least, they think they're the elites, will live. And that they're going to get vaccines. We know Zuckerberg has this humongous bunker where he can live for a year with whoever people he chooses to invite. And I'm for planetary survival, and I am not giving up hope, because there's no choice. This is a red alarm fire, code red. Let's see, Robin Sandhoff. With the felon being so ill, I've been wondering how MAGA will respond when he dies. Will they become violent? Will Vance be able to keep them from starting something violent? I don't. I went out on a limb a few months ago, and this was when Trump first started criticizing Putin, and I started hearing from my network of people who know more about Russia than I do, saying that Putin is telling people like Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones and others and Charlie Kirk to amplify the Epstein files, etc. So I've been saying for months, I don't think Trump's going to be president, whether he's alive or whether he has a heart problem or a stroke or whatever. I don't think he's going to be functional by December 31st. I could be wrong, but will Vance keep people from being violent? I don't think so. I think the plan is to militarize and to subvert free and fair elections scheduled for next year, because they know that people are getting really pissed off. A lot of Hispanics are seeing the treatment of their friends, family, community members, and they had voted for Trump thinking that he was going to only go after criminals. There's a lot of people who are pro free speech that are not aligned with what these policies are. They're not aligned with the crypto emphasis either. So I think there could be a false flag or a pseudo terrorist attack, and they just declare martial law. And when martial law happens, then there's no voting. Let's see. Cami says, Deborah J on Substack says Democrats need to shut it down until they get what they want for us, like healthcare. That's the key messaging point right now is the government is going to go into default, and Donald Trump refuses to negotiate with the Democratic leaders. And the Democratic leaders should not fund more money to destroy our country without ensuring that healthcare comes back. I think it's a very reasonable thing, and people should be messaging to family and friends, especially if they have parents or grandparents who are Trumpers. They should ask them if they're aware that they're going to be losing their benefits, or that money, the healthcare is going to double in cost for them if they even are able to have it. I think that's the most important thing right now, because we want the government to be funded, but we don't want the right-wing media spin to put all the blame on the Democrats. We want to have our voices loud, getting to the MAGA people, not just to ourselves. Let's see. Mitch Kale says Trump is also mentally unfit to run any agency at any level because of his gross mental impairment. It's a psychiatric emergency, not a political issue. Yeah, he's been mentally unfit since the beginning. And Mitch, I know, is a mental health professional and the supporter of Bandy Lee, who I interviewed recently, forensic expert who wrote The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump and several volumes since, saying that this man is unfit, unqualified to be president of the United States. And unfortunately, this Heritage Foundation Project 2025 plan, largely put together by Russia, Opus Dei, and several other bad actors, needs to be exposed. I did want to circle back to Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin. And I know that the Mormon governor, Cox, was trying to say that because he was in a relationship with a woman who wanted to transition to malehood, that's what caused it. Trump then said the shooter was trans, which he was not, but the shooter was a Mormon. And if you're not aware, Mormons are the reddest of the red. They are raised corporally. I've done interviews. We have one coming up next week with a woman who was raised Mormon. But we have a bite model of authoritarian control for Mormonism. And this young man was raised on gun culture. And they've since taken down a lot of the Facebook pictures and other pictures of him shooting rifles and even a machine gun, I believe. But the media isn't covering Mormonism at all in this discussion. And I don't know what his current state of mind is. I know that they were writing in the public media that he was a video gamer a lot. And I actually have studied cult recruitment online, and many people who are on the high functioning autism spectrum love video gaming, and that's where they get recruited and radicalized, whether radicalized to the extreme left or radicalized to the extreme right. And I hear from some MAGA folks that I should be talking more about the authoritarianism on the left. And I feel like I do talk about authoritarianism on the left because my work is for human rights. I'm against cancel culture, whether it's done on the left and the right. And in 2025, when I'm doing this recording, I really want people to understand this is about anti-authoritarianism, and my side, our side, is human rights, rule of law, separation of church and state. Nancy Wallace, one of my stalwart supporters, thanks Nancy, says, is it generally helpful to call out fawning behavior? MAGA's, his cabinet, constantly doing it. It reminds me of how other teens laugh at bullies and pander so they aren't targeted. I think everybody needs to decide what feels right for them in terms of their background, in terms of their experience and their knowledge base. But people are familiar that when there's a threat, there's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is where you cave and you just want to fit in. You don't want to make ruffles. I'm for fighting. I don't think it works to put your head in the sand and pretend everything's going to get better next year or the year after. Because honestly, unless something radical gets put into place in a strategic manner and not just a 1 or 2 year plan, but a 20-year plan, I see a lot of problems for people who want free speech, who want liberties for women and gay and trans and indigenous people and children's rights. So, and I'm horrified by authoritarianism in other parts of the world. And it's just really, really obvious when people are trying to assert their power and will militarily with violence instead of using words and looking for peaceful solutions. Kathy O'Hara, why is the murder of Charlie Kirk being called political violence when Charlie Kirk was not a politician? Well, because Charlie Kirk was a major player with his Turning Point USA in recruiting young people to support Trump. So everyone who followed Charlie Kirk was pro-Trump. And that's why I made the comment I made right after the assassination, right after Trump blamed the left for doing the assassination. I was aware that Charlie Kirk was one of the people, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene, surprisingly, who was saying, no, we need to investigate anybody who's violating young women and trafficking them. And Charlie Kirk put it aside when the Republicans adjourned for the summer because they didn't want to keep talking about Epstein. And so when he was killed, that was my first thought. Let's not rush to blame the opponents of Trump, but maybe somebody from the Trump field did not want Charlie Kirk to be encouraging all of his millions of followers to to pressure the release of the Epstein files. Let's see, Cami Lee, anti-cult on TikTok says, one thing learned, one cannot give flowers to a narcissistic bully. Yep, and I think, was it last week, Cami, or the week before, we got banned on TikTok because of what I was saying? Just understand that information control is the most important dimension of the BITE model of authoritarian control, which stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotion.
You're on, Stephen. Stephen, you're on.
Hello, hello, hello. Am I back?
You are on.
It looks like, yay. Would love to find out what keeps happening every time we do this stream and we get disconnected. But thanks for getting me back. I want people to understand Americans' DNA is pro freedom. We are used to free speech. We're used to allowing Nazis to march, even though we disagree with them. And what's happening right now in the United States is the opposite, where the country has been taken over from the top down, from the presidency down, and is trying to control everyone's minds with propaganda. Oh, thank you, Nancy Wallace, super chat at $5. Great supporter. I appreciate your support. We are inviting people to my Substack, and we're trying to ask for subscriptions to help fund us so we can do a lot more programming. I'm writing original stuff. We just published something on sovereign citizens. We have a position paper coming out on the transgender identity front because I think it's need to clear all sides as not okay. So I want to just say clearly who I am, what I believe, and why I believe what I believe. So stay tuned for that. Next week we have Irene's Entropy, a former Mormon woman, a musician who will be on the podcast. And we've rebranded the podcast to Cults, Culture, and Coercion, which I'm very happy about. Let's see. Cami says, Kristen on Substack asks, do you have advice on rebuilding a relationship with a family member who got obsessed with a hobby and a related group, married someone from the new group, and threw you under the bus in the process? I hear your good advice, but it can be so distressing and difficult. So this is a situation I have had numerous clients for. It's not a cult per se, but it's a relationship. Sometimes it's the person's family that's the controlling force. And so yes, there are strategies. I strongly recommend reading Combating Cult Mind Control and then Freedom of Mind, which is my book on how to help a loved one. I don't recommend saying to your loved one you're in a cult or you're being brainwashed. I do recommend saying things like, I miss you and I want you back in my life. And often the person says, well, then you're going to have to accept my partner. And so what do I say? I say, accept the partner. You're not going to have a relationship if the need is to have acceptance. Just say, I'll do my side, I'll do my share, and let's talk. Let's have active listening. Let's figure out how to be in each other's life in a way that works. Let's see, Cat Crixo Official. Are you a leftist or are you a liberal? I am neither a leftist or a liberal. I guess some people will say I have liberal values because I believe in women's rights and gay rights and trans rights and indigenous rights. But I'm also a mature man who has owned a home and runs a corporation. And so for me, I'm pro human rights. I'm pro rule of law, separation of church and state, and I criticize authoritarianism on the left and the right. Let's see. Cami says, Deborah J. on Substack says, let us not forget Democrats are not in the majority in the Congress now, but a Democratic woman won a special election in Arizona, and she will vote for the release of the Epstein files. It gives Congress the number of votes needed to do so. Thank you for saying that, Deborah. I did see that article, I did see a message that there was a special election, but I didn't see it in a newspaper that I trust yet. But if that's so, then this is going to pull the curtain back on one of the biggest conspiracies, and this is a real conspiracy, that Trump campaigned on for 10 years, saying he was going to drain the swamp, blaming that it was the Democrats and Hillary that were trafficking children. Remember Comet Pizza, remember QAnon and all of that. It's like, let's pull the curtain back and realize that Donald Trump has been womanizing, abusing underage girls as a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Putin does have compromat files on him for sure, no question. I've talked to former KGB officials. And so then what to do next? And that's why I keep saying, reach out to your family, reach out to friends that you care about who are open to talking with you, and do your best to rekindle the relationship. If someone says, I don't want you in my life, let's just keep it superficial and send holiday greetings 2 or 3 times a year, then you're limited in terms of being able to have a real dialogue that's going to be successful or effective. But, we're human beings. We're not robots. We're not perfect. We can only do what's within our power to do to help other people. And in the meantime, role model, you know, and it feels great to help people. If you haven't gone out of your way to open a door for an elderly person or carry a package for them, or somebody who needs some help, it feels good to help. Let's see. Nixus super chat, $5. Thank you so much. Have a coffee on me. I appreciate it. $5 a month will get you access to all of my archives on Substack, incredible interviews. And I'm asking you, please put the money there and try, and every week see if you can get someone else to subscribe to my Substack, and we can multiply the effectiveness. Let's see, Areno Music, what would you say to people who truly thought they would be raptured this week and are now feeling disappointed and confused? This has happened multiple times before. And what you don't want to do is say, I told you so, or what happened, or, guess you were wrong, and shame them. You want to listen to them. Why did they believe what they believed? Who were they listening to? And for me, I know people who are dedicated Christians who really know the New Testament, and they quote, no one knows the time. And anyone who says they know the time, like, they're false prophet. So I'm Jewish, so I rely on Christians to message to Christians and bring them back to the teachings of Jesus and the Bible. And that said, I am very concerned about the Pope appearing to be opening doors to Opus Dei, which is a destructive authoritarian mind control cult group, who's accused of trafficking many young people, having them lie to their parents and labor trafficking them. And I'm very nervous. I heard Kimmel, Musk, and others went to the Vatican and had a big meeting with officials there. I'm not sure with the Pope, but I saw a short video of an American cardinal talking about what a great man Charlie Kirk was. And this is the opposite of what I heard Pope Leo talking about with MAGA. So let's really get our values in the open: honesty, love, truth, love God with all your heart, mind, and strength. Let's see. Kemi says, Debbie on TikTok asks, honest question, why is your book titled The Cult of Trump then? It's a great question. I said the same thing to my agent and the publisher when they said, we want you to do the book, The Cult of Trump, because I said it's going to alienate all of the followers. And they said they're not going to read your book anyway, and you need to educate everyone else about cults. This has been your life work. And all I knew when I agreed to do the book with that title was that, because I'm from New York and I grew up 1.3 miles from Donald Trump's childhood home. The only thing I knew was that Donald Trump was a malignant narcissist, someone who cheated his workers, who was a racist, who was a misogynist, who cheated on his pregnant wife, etc. But I didn't understand there were authoritarian cults in the cult of Trump. And I do not recommend buying the cult of Trump and giving it to somebody who's a MAGA believer, but you should read it yourself. And let's see, Cami Lee, part 2, to Debbie's question. The reason I ask is that because you said never tell someone they're in a cult. Yeah, the bottom line is you can say someone is in a cult, but it's going to activate their cult identity, make them feel defensive and be angry at you and want a distance from you. And so, but I have my influence continuum graphic. I don't think I can hold it up here. Maybe Jerry can put it up on the screen. But I take the position, and I wrote there's a Substack piece on this, that cults exist along the influence continuum from ethical to unethical. So I want to encourage people to think about cults, not just in a pejorative, negative way, but, and I talk about money, but it recognizes you're a unique self. You can critically question. You can be free to leave without fear of harassment, versus the bite model: behavior, information, thought, and emotional control variables of a pseudo identity that's dependent and obedient. And if you want to ask me if I went back in time to me to have access to one of the premier publishing houses to get my work out, to tell my Mooney story, to explain the influence continuum and bite model, to explain malignant narcissism. And there's a whole chapter on talking about people who are in the cult of Trump and how to do it effectively. Yes, I would do it again. And and all I can say is I'm a human being. I'm making the best decisions I can, given the information experience. And I have some people who genuinely care about me saying, stop talking, stop being public, Steve. They're going to come after you. And to which I say, this is my life work. I've been doing this for 49 years. I'm not going to stop now. And I've spoken out against Scientology and the Moonies and Putin and China. I'm not going to stop now. And so I have had a very, very wonderful life, and I'm just not going to give up the fight. Let's see, Tracy Eva, isn't it interesting that none of these TikTokers who posted about the rapture are not admitting they have been left behind because they failed as Christians? I'm not surprised, and understand we're living in an age of psychological warfare. Do you know that it was reported by Associated Press after Charlie Kirk's assassination that Russia, China, and Iran were doing massive disinformation campaigns aimed at Americans throughout the entire political spectrum, inciting civil war? They want us to kill each other. They really want to stoke chaos and fear and distrust in one another as Americans. And we need to understand there are bad actors trying to get rid of the United States of America as a superpower so they can control the world. And as Americans, especially those of us who grew up where our parents fought in World War II, people who survived the Holocaust, no, we're not going to support Nazis. Sorry, this is against our DNA as Americans. Let's see, Camille says, Noogie on TikTok asks, is it okay to use the phrase, I was raised in a cult, if the way you were raised only mimicked cults? I don't know. I recommend go to bytemodel.com. It's my most recent research tool. It's free and anonymous, and it asks you 20 questions, never to always, and then 40 questions, and it will literally give you a number on the influence continuum for each of these two models we're testing. And what we're after is a criteria that scientifically proves that you're involved with an authoritarian mind control relationship or cult, something that will hold up in a court of law, and where we can fight back against all the cult apologists who say there's no such thing as brainwashing or mind control, and you shouldn't call any group a cult. You should call them a new religious movement. No, I'm not going to call the Moonies a new religious movement. They're a mind control cult. And the one that's in Pennsylvania with Moon's son, Sean Moon, Rod of Iron Ministries.org, they worship the AR-15 gun, and he calls himself king, and he wears a crown of AR-15 bullets. No, I'm not going to call them a new religious movement. They are a threat to democracy and human rights and freedom. So I'm looking at the clock. We did have an interruption, but we have a number of more minutes to say. We need to start realizing we're in a moment where information control is happening through the algorithms. I use ground news because I see an article and I can see what's written on different parts of the spectrum about the news story. Let's see. Deborah J. on Substack says Trump did away with the branch of the FBI, what protects us against foreign influence, so they can't do anything to stop it. Correct. Trump has put uniquely unqualified people at every position in the government to destroy the infrastructure. He allowed Elon Musk to go in and gather all of our data, and apparently it's being not only given to Russia, but given to Palantir, Peter Thiel's surveillance organization. And Americans are going to learn what it feels like to live in China if we don't do some major things to stop it in the coming weeks and months ahead. And every time you agree to give your personal data for free, then you are the product. And so I'm a big fan of recommending. Oh, and Tara Setmeyer, thank you. Tomorrow night, 7:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be on the Seneca Project podcast. We'll be sharing the links in my social media. Check me out on Instagram. I think we have 175,000 folks on that channel. But we will post links on everything that we have: Substack, LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky. And seriously, people, have hope and regulate how much time you spend on social media. And I can tell you, I said to Tara, I don't do interviews after 8 p.m. because I go to bed by 10:15, and the phone's off. If it's on, it's because I'm listening to piano, classical music to relax, but that's it. I'm not looking at anything that's going to arouse me because I want to sleep. We are embodied minds and we need good sleep. And people have had all kinds of bad reactions because they're not getting proper sleep. And as a Moonie, I was sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night for 2.5 years. And that's where I almost died in the van crash without sleep. Get some rest. Know that freedom of mind is here. We say it's your mind, only you should control it. And start educating yourself and family members and friends. This is the moment that we're living in right now. And just worrying and having fear without action is a waste of energy and time. So always say, what can I do now that's practical within my sphere of influence? And each night when you go to sleep, know that you've done a few things to move the ball forward in a positive direction. Today, this live stream is my main contribution, and I'm doing more live Substacks with different participants. So come join us at Freedom of Mind. Appreciate you. And thanks, team. Thanks, Cami. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you next week at 2 p.m., I guess. Take care.